Hello and welcome to the webinar. We are ready to begin our program, so let's get started. I would like to introduce your host and presenter for today's event, Dave Kyle.
Good afternoon, everybody, and as mentioned, welcome to the webinar. I'd like to get things started for us. Just a few reminders about our program today. We'll be running from about 12 o'clock, and hopefully we'll get done before 1. I know we will be. We'll be closer to 12:45, I hope. If you don't hear audio now, I did have a question about that earlier. I have some information for you to dial in, but everyone should hear audio, and that's the phone number as well as the access code. And if you're having any difficulty with audio that's coming through your computer, that's the information you can use right there to gain access and hear what's going on. Questions. Important part of this today is we're leaving a little bit of room here for everyone to ask some questions about Windows 10 and what we're presenting. So in your control panel, you'll see a little pop-down triangle next to the questions. You can type in a question. I'll look for those at the end. And we had some questions that were already asked when people signed up. So we have a few of those to cover, as well as anything else you may be interested in hearing from us about in that control panel today. And just to let you know, we are recording the webinar, and we'll save this for everyone to get back to and listen to again if need be. Feel kind of lucky today. We have a few people with me in my monthly webinar. Today we have Dan Miller, who's a systems engineer, and Chris Bubeck, who's one of our account managers. Pat Bubeck is another systems engineer, and myself. This is actually kind of a special presentation for us, and I really want to thank these guys for being with me today. Dan came forward to me a couple months ago and said that we had been receiving a lot of questions from our accounts regarding Windows 10, and we had a conversation in one of our meetings together about how we promote this or look at this and examine this for our accounts. And what we decided was taking some of the questions we've had. Chris was involved, so this is kind of a team effort and a response to our customers, quite frankly, about how we can better help them, and it's something we do as part of our educational process. So if you're not already an ease customer, please consider us. We do a lot of these kind of educational programs. If you're one already today, thank you for bringing this up, and hopefully you'll get a lot out of it. So let's talk about our agenda. Some of the things we'll be talking about today are why would you want to upgrade? Some of the free upgrade details, which is one of the major features and considerations that people are asking questions about. Some of the top features that you'll find in Windows 10. Some of the upgrade readiness process that we'll cover for you as to what considerations, how to go about it, and some of the screens and process you'll take when you do upgrade. And then we'll also do a quick demo of some of the main features that we've talked about as well, and then of course the Q&A. So what I'd like to do is first turn it over to Chris Bubeck, and he's one of our account managers that covers supporting our existing accounts. And Chris, what do you want to share with some of our current accounts as they sit through the program today?
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. And thanks for everyone for joining. Again, like Dave mentioned, my name is Chris Bubeck. I'm an account manager with Ease Technologies. So many of you have met me and are used to working with me. For the others, welcome. I've mentioned Windows 10 to several of you before, and I will likely do so again. Many of you have proactively asked me about your user base upgrading, and then, of course, what Ease plans to do as far as deployment, educating the user base, and then supporting it. As you'll see today, not only will we be talking about the features and what's new, we will also be discussing who should upgrade, a little bit about compatibility, and if you're a current Ease client, the process that we take and will take with you to help prepare you for the upgrade. As Dave mentioned, I will be covering the upgrade readiness portion a little later in this webinar.
Great. Let's take a look at some of these components or things we're considering about why would someone want to upgrade. One of the biggest ones that's out there is the free upgrade process. And what everyone needs to know about this is there's a deadline of July 29th that's been set by Microsoft. So anyone who's going to upgrade can upgrade for free up until about July 29th. It's been kind of questioned whether or not they're going to continue with that, but that's their stated direction that they'll be free up to that point. It'll also, important part about the upgrade is that it's not a compromise upgrade in any way. It's not a light version of Windows 10. It's a full-blown feature. So if you're using the home version of some of the versions I'll describe for you in a second, you will get the full-blown Windows version, whether it's free or the home or professional version when you upgrade. We're going to talk about compatible devices, what kind of equipment you need to use today. And then most importantly, this upgrade is really contingent upon you already having Windows 7 Service Pack 1 or Windows 8.1. So really, and many of you may even be seeing the message that's coming up on your computer today. Do you want to upgrade? And Dan and the guys are going to talk about that message, what that means, when to activate it, and what steps you can take as well. So the big things are that it's a free upgrade. Consider that timeline. So if you do want to take advantage of that, it's something you need to evaluate before July 29th. And let's just talk about some of those compatible devices, because that's an important part of making that consideration. Really, and this is the list that Microsoft is providing. So processor of 1 gigahertz, RAM of 1 gigabyte, hard disk space of 16 gigs, a graphics card of a DirectX 9 or later, and a display of 800 by 600. This is really kind of a minimum bare bones system. And guys, any thoughts on an optimal device?
Well, ideally, this is just going to run just the operating system. So this is just going to run Windows 10, and this doesn't take into account Microsoft Office or any of the other programs installed on your computer. Typically, what we recommend is an i5 processor with 4 gigabytes of RAM and at least 120 gigs of hard drive space as a bare minimum for any computer that we recommend to our clients and to anyone, actually.
Yeah, Dan, so I think that what we're seeing out there in the field already, and the customers we're working with, or most anybody, quite frankly, they have the equipment already today that can upgrade pretty successfully with Windows 10.
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if anybody has just a really low-end, older piece of equipment, they really need to check it out ahead of time. But anybody using business class equipment today, they're probably in pretty good shape. Would anyone agree with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Let's talk about some of these new features. And again, we'll be demoing some of these things. But one of the first ones, and Dan, maybe you want to continue a little bit for us as well, is the Start menu and tiles.
So the Windows 10 Start menu is the best features of the Windows 7 Start menu and Windows 8 Start screen. The new Start menu allows you to pin tiles for quick launch of applications and websites. You can also now pin live tiles, which allow for dynamically updated info at a quick glance view. And an example of this would be the weather live tile. Pinning this and setting the location will allow you to view the weather forecast without the need to launch an internet browser or pull out your phone to check and see what the weather is. It's all built right into the Start menu.
So it's just really designed to really provide someone faster access to the things they need to get to more often.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. And Cortana, what's that one?
Cortana this is Pat speaking, by the way. Cortana is actually what Dan described as kind of Microsoft's way of doing something like Siri if you have an iPhone. Cortana allows you to type in or talk to your computer and say, hey, Cortana, open up this website. Some of you may like talking to your computer. Some of you may not like talking to your computer. And what's great about Windows 10 is it allows you to kind of turn these functions off and on as needed. Some of the complaints we got from Windows 8 were a lot of these features, you kind of got stuck with them. Windows 10, you had the flexibility to turn it off.
Great. So Microsoft Edge, this is probably a big one and an important one to consider.
Yeah, Edge is the new browser by Microsoft. It's kind of their way of competing with Chrome and Firefox. I know many of you on the call are probably using all three of those different browsers, and actually Internet Explorer as well. Edge is kind of a way of opening websites that you may have a problem with in Chrome, but Edge allows you to open them in different tabs, allows you to view preview the tab as well. So it's a nice new browser.
Okay, our next one is the battery saver.
The battery saver allows you to clamp down on superficial background activities, like live tiles that are dynamically updating in the background. This will allow you to maximize your system's endurance. This is turned on by default, and the default setting is when your computer reaches 20%, it will send your machine into a low power mode, meaning that live tiles, Bluetooth, etc. might be turned off, kind of like you may have seen on your mobile device.
Okay, so so if you have Microsoft Surface, which actually Pat has a Microsoft Surface today that he'll be demoing off of, and it's taking advantage of intelligently turning off lower priority functionality on the computer to save batteries.
Correct.
Okay, great. Snap Assist, this is kind of new, I think, isn't it, Pat?
Yeah, Snap Assist is a good way to allow you to kind of work with multiple monitors, even if you only have one monitor. I know most of you in your office have two monitors. You may go home, you may work remotely, and you say, hey, this isn't as easy to use. And these are all things we're going to demo here shortly. I know it's kind of hard to grasp, but Snap Assist allows you to pull up two windows in one screen and kind of compare things. So something like an Excel sheet and a Word document you can look at side by side.
Instead of overlapping, I guess, and flipping through the windows, you can put them next to each other side by side, like you said.
Correct. Yeah, we'll show that here pretty shortly.
Great. And then version control.
Okay, so version control is not turned on by default, but once the feature is turned on, you can right-click any file, select properties, and then open the previous versions tab. From there, you can select any previous version of the file and restore it. This will allow you to recover from an accidental save after you deleted that page of your document that you worked 3 hours on and just overwrote it, so you're not going to lose your stuff anymore.
Okay, great. And then finally, another one we want to mention is a native PDF print.
So finally, there is not a need for Adobe Acrobat or other third-party programs like Foxit PDF or QPDF to simply print a PDF from a different file type like Word. If you just need to be able to print and view PDFs, you can now do that natively inside of Windows without the need for paid software.
I think it's a good feature for people who like to work at home or using their home computer, and they're going to be able to have with Windows 10 the ability to, save PDF files. And I know I do it pretty regularly at home just with my home computer and saving a document that I don't want it to be a Word document for somebody else. And so having to spend that extra fee for that application is no longer needed for something casual as saving a PDF document is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's been one of the most requested features from Microsoft for a long time to build it into the operating system, and they finally did it.
Great. Okay. So let's talk about upgrade readiness. And Chris, can you share some more of the upgrade process, especially what our current customers should expect? And, if you're not a customer, that's fine too. Listen to Chris's process will help you with your own procedure and how to evaluate going forward. But Chris, can you
Sure. Yeah, thank you. So recently, as you could guess, one of the most prevalent questions I have been receiving when meeting and speaking with our client base is, should I upgrade to Windows 10? Or something along the lines of what are the pros and cons to me upgrading? The answer is not the same for everyone, as you can imagine. So we can take some time today to talk a little bit about upgrade readiness. At Ease, we always take our time when it comes to researching and testing new technologies, whether that be applications, remote access technologies, security layers and add-ons, backup technologies, and in this case, of course, operating systems. Luckily, we've had some time to really, for lack of a better term, play around with Windows 10 and note any issues or potential issues for our client base. We have ample knowledge of all of our client systems and applications, so we are treating the question of, quote unquote, should I upgrade on a case-by-case basis. I'll give you all an example. Many of our clients use software and applications that rely on using, for instance, Internet Explorer, and I know Pat mentioned this earlier. Oftentimes, these software applications support structures only support or work with older versions of Internet Explorer. Software and their support is notoriously a little bit behind when it comes to operating systems and catching up. Internet Explorer is available in Windows 10. However, you have to find it. You have to search for it, and you need to jump through a few hoops to use an older version, which can become even more complicated. So this is a potential pitfall. So as an Ease customer, we encourage you to reach out to our help desk to schedule a Windows 10, what we would call an upgrade analysis. We will research the systems you use and schedule assistance with upgrading. We can even schedule a post-upgrade to run through navigation and new features, which we are luckily doing today. Some of our current clients, we will be rolling out mass upgrades, and we are scheduling that with your main Ease point of contact. One of the main preparation steps we will take is analyzing the applications you use as an organization as well as an individual user. So it is recommended to begin taking inventory of the applications you use on a daily basis so that we may better analyze whether you are ready for upgrade, and then, of course, if there are any additional preparation steps we need to help you take. Another item that we need to take into consideration, which is up on the webinar the screen right now, that we need to take into consideration are the peripherals that you may use. And what I mean by that is, particularly printers, for instance. Many printer drivers are maybe outdated and simply not transfer over when you make this upgrade. This can be a part of our upgrade readiness analysis. You may not find that these items don't work until you actually perform the upgrade, unfortunately. In this case, we can help install or upgrade a driver, but in some cases, purchasing more up-to-date peripheral hardware may be required. For our accounting clients, we know what time of year this is, tax season. We definitely recommend waiting until post-tax season for any major upgrades, and in this case, particularly upgrading to Windows 10. However, if there's somebody who is particularly interested in upgrading, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can help to do that for you with minimal downtime. For our cloud workspace users, the cloud is using a different operating system instance. Today we are focusing on the local desktop operating system only.
And Chris, if I can interrupt, that's mostly due to what Microsoft has in the versions. So it's not as much as we don't want to do it, as much as the way the versions that Microsoft has set up with server, and but it's coming out down the road at some point.
That's correct. So after all this, chances are, you are good to upgrade. We scare you a little bit here, but there are definitely benefits to upgrade, as Dave mentioned. Security is always going to be better with the newer operating system. All of the latest security updates will be available. Most of the development, security, and support focus at Microsoft will be geared towards Windows 10. We encourage you to perhaps upgrade a home computer and try it out. Check out a friend's or coworker's Windows 10 system first. A lot of our client base is already upgraded. Sometimes without us involved, that's fine. We always recommend trying and testing something before going full-fledged into it. Remember, ease is here to help you if you run into trouble, or for the rare occasion, need to revert back to your original operating system, which Dan will get into in a little bit. There is a built-in Windows upgrade readiness check within the update itself. And to go through that quickly, I will hand that over to Dan Miller to talk about.
Before we jump into that, I just want to add, and Chris,
Sure.
One of the big points I think it's really for anyone to recognize, especially any kind of business or organization, and it seems kind of logical, but you made a point of checking out maybe a home computer, or checking out even an alternative device, a second computer someone may have in their office they don't
Sure.
use as often as their first means of testing out compatibility and things like that. Basically, understanding and knowing what they're going to get into before they get started. And we do the same thing within larger deployments. When you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of computers, we create what's called an image or test system to go through all that. And so we encourage that kind of process, even in a smaller environment, whether you have 3 or 5 computers.
Right.
Have one system that's kind of your guinea pig, you might say. And that way you're not kind of, jeopardizing the whole process and the whole environment. And most important, and Chris has said this, we don't want anyone to even consider this, especially those involved with critical functions, until after your, say, tax season is over, for example.
Sure. And for instance, we're demoing today, so a picture is worth 1,000 words. However, it's always recommended to see it first, and to kind of start at maybe a small sample size and then work your way up. But we can, as an organization, we can help you do that. But it never hurts to check it out yourself. Play around with it if you can, because we do know that your main work computer, you cannot. We want to minimize downtime. We want to minimize the issues that you're going to have. So we'd like you to perhaps try those things out, or run into those potential issues perhaps on your home computer first, rather than your main work computer.
Yeah.
So, but we, of course, we can help you through that. And like I said, we'd be glad to give any one-on-one demos or assistance if need be.
And the areas we're most concerned, or we're trying for people to recognize, are older printers, older devices like old Bluetooth mouse,
Right.
printers, scanner drivers, things like that.
Any
are all the
third-party, peripherals that you've had for a long time. They're tried and true, and they've been working with you for quite some time. They may not transfer over or work properly right away, and we may need to either upgrade a driver, or unfortunately, sometimes the driver is just not there for Windows 10. So in the rare case, purchasing new peripheral hardware may be required. But like I said, that's a case-by-case basis. We haven't seen too much of that. Has it happened? Yes. But, you can always let us know what you're using, and we can look that up for you and help you do that research. But like I said, there is an upgrade readiness check that's built into the system that Dan can perhaps get into.
Great.
So most of you have probably seen in the lower right-hand corner of your screen the Windows 10 upgrade icon. If you click that, you will get this screen. And if you look at the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the menu that has the 3 lines. Once you click that, you'll get this screen that's going to show up now. And on here, this is where you actually reserve your upgrade. So just because you have the notification doesn't mean you upgrade right there. You have to reserve it first, and then you'll be notified when you can download it. Underneath of that, you'll see check your PC. This will run Microsoft Check against your machine and see to make sure that you meet the minimum specs that was discussed earlier in this webinar, along with to see if your applications will transfer over and your devices and peripherals that Chris was talking about will transfer over. And that looks like the next screen. So as you can see, the machine that I ran this on came back as it was ready to be upgraded. Now this is running Microsoft's standardized application check and spec check as far as hardware goes. Each and everybody's computer is individualized and personalized, so this is a baseline. It is not a definitive answer that everything will transfer over.
Okay, great. I know we have some questions coming in. I see those, and we're going to answer those at the end, so if you have some more, that's fine. Thank you for adding those in. Let's move over. Our next thing we're going to do here is actually take some time and share with you with Pat, and he's going to give us some demo of Windows 10 of some of the features we've been talking about. So give me a moment. I'm going to transfer my presentation over to Pat, and of course I lost my mouse. There it is.
And I'll just give a little background here. We're actually doing this on a Microsoft Surface book. It's a new product from Microsoft. The Microsoft Surface itself has been out for a while. This is actually one that's kind of a combination of a laptop and a tablet.
Is that coming your way?
Yeah, I think you should all be seeing my screen at this point.
Great, we do.
And we're already logged in here. The look of it should be what you're used to. Nothing too crazy here as far as the looks go. It's a good combination of what Windows 8 brought and what Windows 7, what was known for. So down here, we're going to start with the Start menu. Change the icon slightly, but still the same idea here when you open it up. The main thing here is some of you that use Windows 8, you probably didn't like the entire tile screen that would come up when you would click the Start menu. So what Microsoft decided to do was do a little combination of both to give people that like the old look, the ability to go back to that, and as people that like the new look, they could go to that as well. So here we can kind of click and drag. We can say, hey, I don't want to see all the icons. I only want to use the ones that I use on a day-to-day basis, or I want to see more icons here. Dan talked about this earlier. The live tiles we have. You can mount some your favorite websites here. We're going to do that here shortly, show you how that works. And we can click and drag. We want the draw board here. We can move that down. We can adjust accordingly. And you can also click and resize one. If you want the mail icon to be bigger, you can do that. Cortana actually links very well with all of this. So down here, I'm going to show you what Cortana looks like. Some of you may be familiar with what Cortana is like as far as if you use Siri. We talked about that earlier. Siri is kind of the same concept here. You could say, hey, Cortana, launch this website, and it would open it up here. I personally like typing. I don't like talking to my computer, so if I wanted to pull something up like the control panel, I would type it in here, and then we can pull up the control panel. So that's where it's really handy. You don't have to go digging into all your applications here. And I'll show that as well here. Just as it was in the older versions, you can show all your applications here. The power button is shown here. And I think the big one here is to log out of your computer. It's now up here. That was kind of tricky at first for me to find, to be honest. I was going under the power settings and all that. So we'll jump in here into Edge. Like we mentioned earlier, some of you have multiple browsers. As you can see on the bottom of my screen here, I have Chrome. This is the old Internet Explorer that is still available. Chris mentioned that. You can do a search for it if you don't see it on your desktop. And then here's Edge. So it's a very similar icon. Thing to remember is the old one is just a lighter shade of blue. So here in Edge, I have a couple tabs open. One of the nice little new functions is the ability to preview a tab you have open. When we connect up at work here to our customers' computers, we know how it is. You have a lot of tabs open. You're juggling a lot of items at once. So this is a handy new feature. You can kind of hover over and remember what you're working on in that specific tab. And part of the new features is that what we talked about was a Snap Assist. Snap Assist is a good way to use your monitor in kind of a multi-monitor setup. So I'll go in here. We're going to open up this is running Word 2016 and Excel 2016. And this kind of gives you the feel of having multiple monitors, even if you don't. So if you're working remotely or you're not in your office, this is pretty handy. So what you can do is you can take the Windows key and you can use your arrow keys to move these around, and then it'll show you what else you have open. So I want to open up an Excel sheet here, and then we can put it side by side. So if I had some numbers here I want to compare, it's really easy to do that. You can kind of click and drag, and it doesn't really compress. It doesn't change the size of the actual text and everything you're viewing. So it's a pretty handy tool. Now, kind of along with that concept is the ability to launch what's called the task view. Task view is down here next to Cortana. You can click that, or a shortcut key for it is just to click the Windows and Tab key. So that's a key feature to remember, is a lot of things are done with the Windows and Tab functionality here. So if we do that, we can pull up what we're working on. It shows a big splash screen, and I'm going to go ahead and open up an Excel sheet again, just so you can see multiple things open at once. So we'll go back into task view here. We'll see what we have open. Also, along with this is they introduce virtual desktops as well, virtual multiple monitors. Some of you that are familiar with the Mac operating system, this is one of those features that a lot of people that were fans of the Mac were like, hey, why don't we have this in a PC at this point? So Microsoft listened, and they incorporated this. And what you can do is you can actually pull up that task view, click New Desktop. And if we go into that, now we have a completely bare desktop. So all my icons are still here, but you can kind of hop back and forth. So if you have a lot of stuff you're working on, you can click that task view and hop right back. And then what you can actually do too is go ahead and close out when you're done with that. What we're going to talk about now is the taskbar. Dan went into kind of the battery assist function. This Microsoft Surface has a pretty incredible battery life, and a lot of it is definitely due to that battery saver function. We can see it down here. We're going to go down to the battery icon, and as soon as this hits about maybe 30% or more, it's automatically going to go into that battery saver mode. We can hop into it here, or we can keep it as is and let the operating system handle it. And that's the good thing, is it kind of does it all for you. You don't have to go ahead and click in here and change your brightness. It's really good about that. And I can get almost 10 to 15 hours of battery life on this thing. And you can adjust the brightness here manually if you'd like to. One other thing we talked about, just so you can visualize it, is the print as PDF. That's a call we definitely get a lot on the help desk, is, hey, I don't have that functionality. And unfortunately, you have to have something like a Acrobat or the QPDF to be able to do that. So what we're going to do is just do a test here. We're actually going to save this. Actually, we'll go ahead and just hit print. And then from here, we have the option to Microsoft Print to PDF. So normally, you probably have to go up there and select your Adobe Acrobat Print to PDF. But Microsoft now incorporated that, which is a nice feature. I think that covers pretty much all the nice new features. There's obviously a lot more to it, but those are the ones that you're going to want to know from a business perspective, as far as what's going to make your life a little bit easier working with Windows.
Okay, great. Thanks, Pat. Good job. I'm going to bring back the presentation to me. And let's bring up back the presentation. And I think we're there. Great. So we had a lot of questions come through previous to this, as well as some questions we were considering that we heard from our accounts already, and I have a few in here as well. So we'll try to answer some of those questions. And guys, if you wouldn't mind helping me out a little bit here. One of the ones was regarding Edge. What if I don't want to use Edge? Is that an option for me? I think you may have said that, but if we could repeat the answer for that.
Yes, you can absolutely still use Internet Explorer 11 and Windows 10. Pat had it pinned to his taskbar at the bottom. It's still there. It's just not the default browser out of the box anymore. Okay,
great. There's probably a point in time, and we were discussing this earlier, that from a compatibility standpoint, things going forward, software manufacturers, whether you're using applications on the web, things like that, are all going to be more compatible or better suited for Edge going forward, but there's still probably a period of time that Explorer will be just fine for many folks if they need to be using that. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. Development of all new apps and patching of existing apps will be developed with Windows 10 and Microsoft Edge in mind. However, currently Microsoft is stopping development and patching of Internet Explorer 8, 9, and 10. And the only continued effort will be Internet Explorer 11 and Edge. In the future, we will continue to see this happen with other features for operating systems, and they will be developed for Windows 10 and not legacy operating systems.
I think one of the things that we were talking about earlier, to piggyback off that a little bit, is Microsoft really is pushing hard on getting everyone upgraded to Windows 10, and for good reason. They don't want to be stuck supporting something like a Windows XP, which was tough to pull users away from. Everyone got used to XP. It was around for so long. They added so much to it that it was tough for them to get away from. So, it is no shock that they're very aggressive in pushing Windows 10 out to everybody. And in doing so, they are going to move away from supporting the older items such as Internet Explorer. And so you just like Dan said, I mean, it's no shock that they're 8, 9, and 10 are no longer supported or being patched. So you do want to get away from those if you can, and we can help you evaluate that. But that's one of the reasons why Windows Edge is the default browser.
Another question is, how much will Windows 10 be after the deadline? Do we know any facts?
Based on past experiences, it is likely to be around $200 is my guess.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen an official price yet, or at least not to my knowledge. But based on past experiences with upgrading to Windows 7 Professional when the time came, it was around the $180 to $200. So that's a good guess.
Okay, another question was, when will the next upgrade, like 10.1, occur? Do we know that?
I actually did see an article just this morning about a new update that's already in place. They're kind of going with the same concept that Apple was doing, where those of you who are familiar, they'll go to a next version, call it Mountain Lion, same concept there. I don't have the name in front of me, but it was an article talking about that. They already have the next.
They'll likely be pushing these out a little bit quicker than you see in the past.
I think that's going to be the answer that we've been hearing and reading.
Windows 8.1 came out fairly quickly because of some issues with Windows 8.0. That's a little bit of a different animal, but they will not be as slow as they were in the past. They're gonna be patching these, and they're gonna be releasing updates as they come. It's hard to tell when the next one will be. It sounds like Pat had a little bit of a preview with an article there, but I would say it could be within the next year, 18 months. I mean, it's hard to tell.
Well, Microsoft started going towards a rapid development cycle ever since they have a new CEO, Satya Nadella, that replaced Steve Ballmer. Since he came on board, a lot of things have been reorganized and internally for this rapid development platform that they're able to get out patches quicker and turn around newer features faster inside of an operating system. Like Chris said, that's why Windows 8.1 came out so quickly after Windows 8, because that was laying the groundwork for rapid development.
Okay. Any gotchas, I guess, was one of the questions that came up on upgrading. And then I'll answer that first a little bit here. I'm seeing a few people make some statements in the Q&A here that they've upgraded already, and they did run into some problems. So there were more statements as they were questions, but a few people say, got a little frustrated, they updated. I even had somebody say they updated this past summer and had problems. I don't have specific issues, but generally what I'm reading from people who are making statements or asking questions is that a trackpad may be a problem, or again, these peripheral kind of areas. The operating systems and applications themselves seem to be doing fairly well. We've seen printers in the past, we've seen trackpads as mentioned here in one of the Q&As, and we've also heard about some issues with a Bluetooth mouse, for example.
We're several months into the release of Microsoft Windows 10 now. So, I mean, day one, drivers aren't going to be as good as now. I mean, we're months into it. So software and driver peripherals for drivers have been able to catch up. I'm not saying that they're all going to be there, but if you do run into an issue like that, within the first 30 days, it is very, very easy to revert back to Windows 7 or Windows 8.1, whatever one you're coming from. And then it can still be done after those 30 days. It's just a couple of extra hoops that need to be jumped through. But in those first 30 days, it's literally clicking a button and it starts to revert you back.
I know that sounds I'm going to suggest one from just having done this for a really long time with technology is I often keep, with all these wireless devices out there anymore, I keep a wired mouse available to me. Okay, even I use a Macintosh, for example, even with my Apple updates and things like that when I'm changing batteries. I keep an old, mouse around that has a USB attachment that I could use in case I run into a problem along these
USB
lines.
technology is going to transfer over.
Yeah.
I mean, the wired technology, as convenient as they might be, they're tried and true, and I still keep one around as well. And I mean, like we said earlier, the Microsoft Readiness check may catch a lot of these things. However, like Dan said, it's not going to catch everything. And I would almost consider a trackpad on the same playing field as a peripheral.
Right.
I mean, it's especially if it's an older laptop, it may be quote unquote Windows 7, but you may have upgraded from XP to 7, and now you're going to trying to throw a Ferrari engine into a Toyota Camry.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with Toyota Camrys, but I'm just saying, you need to understand the hardware that you're coming from. We can help you to analyze that if need be. But there will, like Dan said, also earlier on, there's definitely some more issues than perhaps we are going to see now, and they are patching them as they were coming through. That's why, like I said earlier, we wait. We take our time with these things. We know there's a deadline, but it's best to take our time with these. And that's why we sent out that email to our current client base when this first came out to try to ask everyone to hold on, let us do our research, let us evaluate. We're going to get to you kind of on a case by case basis. But now,
all new machines are going to come with Windows 10.
Right.
So that the peripherals that are built into those machines, like a Surface Book or a new Dell laptop, are going to have drivers for Windows 10. That's why you want to loop us in before doing this upgrade so we can do the readiness check, so we can do our homework for you to get the drivers checked out, make sure, we go to Dell's website, HP's website, check the driver versions that are out there, see if there's any compatibility issues for Windows 10 for you prior to the upgrade.
Question was emailed in originally when they signed up for the webinar was, are there any SharePoint issues with Windows 10? Any complexities, anything we should be aware of with that or how that works?
I personally have seen some issues with some of the older versions of SharePoint. Edge just kind of doesn't have the all the buttons that you'll see in Internet Explorer as far as like checking out. Maybe a slightly different way to get to those same functions. So it kind of changes the format of where they're at. Other than that, I haven't seen anything major in SharePoint.
You'd still have the fallback of Internet Explorer 11,
correct,
and Windows 10 as well.
Because that's going to be more linked to the actual browser that you're using, not so much the operating system, correct?
Correct, yes. So you could always view it in Internet Explorer, and that's what we've actually done in those cases is open up Internet Explorer and use SharePoint for that.
Right. So if you run into that, if you have an older version of SharePoint that you're using, first off, you probably need to think about upgrading SharePoint somewhere along the way, but also be ready to use older Explorer as your fallback in case you do have some problems with some of that.
Yep, that's what we see.
Especially if you're doing any administration and that. I've often seen the administration control panels of some of these things are not as compatible. Look at more of the forward-facing aspects of stuff.
Also, moving forward, Windows 10, Office 365, which you can have SharePoint through Office 365 and OneDrive through Office 65. All of that's going to tie tighter and tighter into each other to have better integrations. So it'll be more seamless, and it won't seem like you have a service hosted in the cloud and a local computer. It'll all just work together.
I had a question as well about admin rights and problems when using Windows 10. Any specifics to that we need to be recognized or talk about for anyone using admin rights? So let's just say someone's in an office, they normally log in with their admin rights. Is there anything different they need to understand or be aware of?
Security permissions have been pretty much the same from Windows 7 and Windows 8. They've gotten tighter about what allowing things to run errand in the background. But being a local admin of your computer will still let you do everything on Windows 10 as you were able to do in Windows 7 or Windows 8.
Okay, I'm going to try to find, I think I have a couple more questions here.
I think on that topic too, just like there was a change in Windows 8 and 7 with, for instance, if you're downloading a file, it may be in a slightly different place on 10. You may get a pop-up in a different area. Those are all just things you'll get used to over time, so nothing too drastic with that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm having a problem with my control panel. I know there's a couple other questions on there, so I apologize. If I can get to them here in the next couple minutes, I will. But my control panel is stuck, and I know there's a couple other questions up there. So I'm trying to get to that without closing us down and shutting the webinar off. So I apologize for that. Let me continue on here as I'm talking. I will see if I can get to those other two questions that were there. I think one of them I'm trying to recall was earlier, and the question was brought up in regards to upgrading from other versions of 7.1. And guys, help me out here. Could there have ever been Windows 7.1 Server or other Windows 7.1 variations that?
I mean, there's Windows 7 Service Pack 1 is the minimum to upgrade. If you're running a patched version after Windows 7 Service Pack 1, that's completely fine to go to Windows 10. Those two, for, like I said, Windows 7 Service Pack 1 and Windows 8.1 are the minimum. If you still are running Windows 8.0, you will need to upgrade to Windows 8.1 to do this upgrade. Same thing if you're running Windows 7 without Service Pack 1, you will need to download and install Service Pack 1 to get to Windows 10.
I think it's pretty safe to say, Dan, I think you'll agree that chances are you are running the correct version of Windows 7. If you're running Windows 7 and you receive updates to your computer, I'd say 99% of the time you're going to be on the version that is capable to upgrade.
Oh yeah, Windows 7 Service Pack 1 came out years ago. So
yeah, so unless you're using a computer that hasn't been connected to the internet and you've maybe in a strict IT environment, chances are you're going to be good in that case.
I see that there's some other questions have come in, and I'm having some difficulty getting to those. So if we are unable to answer a question for you here right now today, what I've done in the past is simply taking your question and I've emailed everybody back the answer as best we can for something like that. If it's something specific to you personally, I'll give you a call and get you answered with that as well. We're getting close to the time as well, so if I can get to it one last time, I will. Let me just try one more time here. See if this helps me. I think I got it. Okay, there we go. Let me go back up to Bill's question. I think it was, can I upgrade to Windows 10 on a Windows 7 SP1 a workstation? And I think we just answered that. The answer is yes. Carrie asks, will there be advice for those who upgraded but didn't want to, but are running into some more problems? I guess from an internal standpoint, we will help you out. So please give us a call if you're a current account of ours and looking for some help on some of that. If you're running into problems, Carrie's asking here, if I'm about ready to buy a new computer, I'm so frustrated. So
you'll get Windows 10 anyway.
Yeah, you'll get Windows 10 anyway, so maybe the newer computer. And I think that I think you have to ask yourself, Carrie, or anybody else who's having this situation, if your frustrations or problems and you're dealing with a 5 to 7 year old computer, your answer may be you need to get a newer piece of technology for yourself in general at that point.
Yeah, we need a little bit more information on what she's running into. That, for right now, she may be able to, she's likely able to revert back to whatever operating system she was using, especially if she's running into a lot of frustration right now. But yeah, if you purchase a new computer, you're going to get better hardware, you're going to get faster hardware, but you will get Windows 10.
You might just need to have drivers updated for certain things built into your actual computer itself, like the network card or the wireless card, the trackpad. Those are all peripherals built into your machine that would need a driver update possibly after upgrading to Windows 10. Windows 10 has a very good driver store of generic drivers, but it can't have all of them. So sometimes you have to actually go out to the website, download it specifically for your device, and upgrade that.
Okay. Another question, is Windows 10 a good choice if you want to move totally to the cloud? I guess I'll answer a general question, and I say cloud in general, I think you'd be fine with that. Somebody who's generally using the cloud is using a browser for in most instances. And the fact that you have an older version of Explorer and the newer version of Edge, you should have all the compatibility you need in most cases for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the answer to that would definitely be yes. The good thing is the cloud is somewhat a new concept. So Windows 10 is going to be geared towards that. They know that is a kind of a big movement going forward these days for a lot of companies. So I think it's definitely a good choice to move forward with Windows 10 for that.
Well, a lot of Microsoft's offerings are cloud-based. So, and like Dave said, you're probably accessing a lot of these services via a browser anyways. So you should be fine.
Another question comes up: how many versions of Windows 10 are there? That's a good question.
Currently, there's just there's
Home and Pro.
And then there's also Enterprise.
Enterprise. Okay. Another one: if you upgrade to 10 and don't like it, can you go back?
Absolutely. Within the first 30 days, like I said before, it's very easy to revert back. After that, we would have to do a restore from a backup or jump through a lot more hoops to get it done, but it can be done.
So, yeah, we would call it 30 days, maybe a trial period for you. So
yeah.
try to make the decision within the 30 days.
Another question: has Microsoft announced a date that Windows 7 will not be supported?
Mainstream support ended January of this year. However, extended support, I believe, and Dan, if you can check this real quick, I believe is until 2020. Now, that means that it will be patched via security updates, other updates as well. But as far as development and adding on to it and kind of enhancing it in other ways, feature-wise, that's over. But for as far as patch updates and such, I believe it was extended warranty is what it's called, or extended support is until 2020. Dan, if you could check that on, but I know that
yes, it's
mainstream
saying
support was
extended support for Windows 7 lasts until January 14th of 2020.
Okay, very good. All right, another question statement is: so maybe we can wait until mid-July to upgrade so that more of the kinks will be worked out. And I would say generally that's okay to head and wait and time yourself at that point. I mean, if there's certain,
if you're going to go that route or strategy, I might shoot for the early July. Give yourself the 30 days.
Right.
July 29th is the cutoff, so maybe like the last week of June, or
right.
Waiting between the last week of June and mid-July, you're probably not going to gain that much. It's just you're just going to get that extra 2 weeks to really play around with the system. So,
and the additional cost of having to pay for the upgrade at that point.
Well, of course, you have until the 29th of July to do that. But yeah, that's.
And speaking of what Chris was just saying, remember you have to reserve your download. And as July 29th reaches, there's going to be more and more reservations, which it may take longer and longer to get your upgrade.
That's a good point.
Okay. Just try one more here. I know there's several others. We'll try to answer some of these if we're not getting to them, because there's a few extra questions in here just for the sake of time. After 30 days, you can't go back to 7. Is that a statement? True?
No, you can go back to 7 after 30 days. It's just more difficult. You literally click a single link and it will revert you back to 7 and reboot your machine back into a Windows 7 environment. You won't lose any documents or anything like that per Microsoft's Technic articles.
Okay, great. All right, we're running close to the end of time. I said we'd get done before 1, so I do want to wrap some things up. If we did miss something for you, I'll share with you my email address. We'll see if we can help you out here. Again, just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Our company is East Technologies, if you don't know us already. We were founded in 1993. We're located here in Columbia, Maryland. We provide managed IT services, a secure cloud offering. And please visit our website. There's our phone number, and I can be reached at dave@easttech.com. And if you're currently working with another provider and you're looking for someone who has the kind of talent that you've heard on this webinar today, someone who's proactive, you're looking for someone who's going to take initiative with you and offer new ideas, please think about us. We're an organization that's been around for a while, as I mentioned. We're a mid-sized count that covers Washington, Northern Virginia, Baltimore, and the Maryland region. So we're always anxious to work with new accounts, and please reach out to us. We'd be glad to help you out. Our next webinar is going to happen on May 4th. We are pushing it out just past the tax season, so all you folks involved with taxes can enjoy your week off after that. But what I'll be doing is a cybersecurity risk and planning for executives. And I'll be doing this webinar with Matt Anderson from McFarland Insurance Agency. And what we'll be talking a little bit more about is not just cybersecurity, but also talking about insurance products, ways to mitigate some of these issues once they do occur. What do insurance products actually provide for an account who's looking to kind of cover themselves a little bit more with insurance products if they're trying to mitigate cybersecurity issues in their organization. Probably read the paper in the last week, can't help but notice there's been any number of hospitals that have been compromised out there in the last couple of weeks. And it's not just hospitals, it's everybody. I'll send out emails for the invite. There's a URL there right there if you want to type in, but I'll provide some more information for you to sign up for that one. A little different in other previous webinars I've done cybersecurity. This is focused on cybersecurity and risks and how to plan for those risks. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here today. I want to thank the team, Pat, Chris, and Dan for joining me. And please check out my blog. I actually have speaking of security, I have a blog post about ransomware on there right now. So if you want to check out our blog, you can help learn a little bit more how to prevent some of those risks from ransomware. This webinar is recorded. I'll post some information for you about that. There'll be a survey coming as well. We'd love your feedback. So again, thank you very much and have a great day.